Hello and welcome to the Hume Scope podcast from and Lowell. For those of you who don't know us, Hume Scope is a recruitment training business co-founded by myself, Ed Khan, and Laura Hopes.
And each week we're going to be giving you 10-minute snippets into our world of recruitment, tips and tricks to help you on your journey as an agency recruiter, and hopefully some laughs along the way too. We hope you guys enjoy.
Alright, do you think people don't know who I am because I've cut my beard now? And they're like, who's
Oh my
that
God, you know
man?
what? I keep meaning to say it to you. I'm like, I keep meaning to be like, why do you look so different? And then I'm like, it's the beard.
It's probably because
Didn't this happen before where people were like, oh,
Who are
who
you?
is this man? Who is this man?
Oh, God.
Karma is this week.
Hmm?
How much karma is this week's episode?
Well, that's true. So far, so good.
Yeah.
We've got 20
Who knows?
minutes.
Knows what's going to happen. Okay.
Where are they? So,
Week
this
one tip.
week, I think something that keeps on coming up online, on socials, with agency owners going, well, we can't hide the fact that we have seen a bit of a dip. We all know it, 20% dip across the board. Great. Some industries hit more than others, but we're all feeling it. So the question I think on quite a lot of people's heads is, what activity should we be doing in a market like this? And given us two old cronies have been here before once or twice,
God, so bleak, isn't it? 5 times? No,
now
maybe
you're
three
an
or
old crony. What would these two old cronies suggest is a good use of time and activity? Because people can end up spending a lot of time on the wrong activity, and that's a waste of time. So you do need
yeah.
to sort of fluctuate with the market and where is going to be the best use of that time.
So my first thoughts on this are that you will, if especially if you work in an industry that has been hit quite hard, you might be feeling some under the surface or on surface panic. And I think what tends to happen is that we then start kind of spraying and praying. It's just like this knee jerk, like, okay, well, I've got to do BD. So I'm just going to, okay, what can I find on the database? I'll call that. I'll call that. Like there's no strategy. And I think we feel like the planning is a waste of time. Like if you're not on the phone making business development calls in this kind of market, what are you doing? And then people are flustered because they don't have anyone to call. And then it just furthers that thing of like business development is hard and I hate it. And so I guess my overarching piece of advice in this is that planning and preparation and research is absolutely fundamental in this market, because you will want to knee-jerk panic and just start spraying business development everywhere. But a really targeted approach off the back of good, solid research is going to be way better. And so you need to carve out time to plan.
Love that. Absolutely love it. And I think that's where you're 100% right, where people tend to go with that panic. And of course, it's not going to work. Your strike rate on that type of panic call or interaction is going to be spray and pray. And then it sort of feeds itself, because then you go, no one's really responding. The market's just really dead. It's because your approach is really shit. That's quite harsh, but it is 5:30 and I'm keen to have a wine. But it is like you need to take that step back to like really view where you're at and go, okay, well, this is a good use of my time. Yeah, and I think it is that research element. It's hard to know it's hard to associate the research with your BD activity, and we do this when we're training people. It is like, no, that is a huge part of your BD activity. So don't see it as a nice to have, much like marketing. When people are like, marketing's nice to have, social posts are nice to have, but it's not really part of
your LinkedIn's nice to have. No, it's not. It's your number one funnel for lead development.
Yeah, 100%. I'd say my top one would be, don't just go where you think the money is. Because I think what often happens in these markets where it's been incredibly candidate short, so all the consultants are just running to the candidates. And for the last year, a lot of consultants have just paid attention to candidates, flicking CVs everywhere, and they've made placements. And now the market shifted the other way. They're just throwing all their focus on client side and forgetting about the candidates. I would actually say a lot of your BD will be done through your candidates. And the work that you put in now will pay off in 3-6 months. Inevitably, the market will turn. And if you're not putting in the time now, exactly what's happening to you now is going to happen to you down there. You might then pick up jobs, but you haven't focused on candidates. So guess what? You're starting this real doldrum cycle again of, I now need to focus on candidates because my client side is okay. It's never going to be an even field. So you have to focus on the candidates, but also making use of the time that you're interacting with these candidates to build your market knowledge. Like the research, when we talk about research, we're not saying sit down for 5 hours a day and deep dive into companies, but use the activity that you're already doing as part of your day to day, but use it wisely. If you're talking to candidates, I know it sounds basic, but find out where they're interviewing. Like it's such a 101, but far too often people forget. Who are they interviewing through? Interviewing at Telstra, great. Which agencies put you forward for that? Like, start building up your knowledge back so that then your BD activity is targeted and it's smart.
Yeah, that's such a great one. And you're so right. And it's like we say to our rookies, it's like recruitment's just a lot of spinning plates. And if you know, put all of your energy and time on just one spinning plate, all of the others are going to fall off their sticks. And so even when it's really tempting to just completely yo-yo your activity to client side, what you're forgetting is that, yes, your candidates are the biggest source of knowledge, and the work that you do with them now will protect the relationships you have in future. And also it's like, you know, like we say in our new recruiter course as well, like every resume you screen is a leads list. So it's about getting smart about utilizing the day-to-day activities that you already are doing to focus your business development efforts to limit that research time. Because you don't have 5 hours a day to focus on BD research, but you are screening maybe 50 resumes a day. So utilize that, you know.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I guess the number one thing, for so many reasons, I said this on the last thing I said, so the second thing, it's just getting out and meeting people, like really placing client meetings as your number one business development activity. Because one, from a mindset perspective, the more you're out of the office, the more you're meeting people, the more positive your mindset's going to feel, the more productive you're going to feel, which will then in turn mean that you won't be feeling things so hard if you don't have much work on. And also we know that, you know, the primary way of winning business is getting out and meeting people. So even the clients that you're working with, like if you're not on site regularly, like get down, even go and catch up with the contractors, go and catch up with every perm placement you made in the last year, like get out and about, because productivity breeds productivity, and that positive mindset will also support
100%. A 1,000,000% for that. It genuinely, I mean, I think everyone's had those days or weeks where you book in back-to-back client meetings and it just leaves you feeling energized, and that does breed that next level of activity. It just propels you forward. And I think a lot of people at the moment, I think we had this in one of our courses where someone said, I can't actually get meetings, clients not willing to meet you. And I'm like, I completely agree. You've got to take different tacks. And where there's clients that you already know, if there's no purpose in the meeting for that person, is there something of value that you can offer that person? If there isn't, it doesn't need to be an official, I want to come in and do a service review. We're in Sydney next week, and I had a few spots left. And I just messaged a few people on LinkedIn that I haven't seen for a while. They're clients of Hume's. And I was like, hey, mate, I'd love to catch up. Love to buy you a coffee or lunch. I'm free in these 2 times, not in Sydney often. I've got back, going, I would love that. But I'm like, it doesn't need to always be a huge sort of deal meeting your clients. The value in it is that face time. where those conversations naturally then sort of turn into a business conversation. But also, and my last point on this before I get shut up, because we're on a 10-minute limit timer, is unfortunately the activity numbers do need to increase in certain areas. And a good example of this is our new recruiter course. Great course, last 16 months, trained 500 people through it. Over the last 4 months, it's slowed down. Naturally, the business world has changed. People have stopped hiring as many rookies. Now, we could just have continued doing the same activity that we did to sell that course and sit there and go, why is no one booking? Or we adjust and go, well, actually, the market's changed here. This is probably now what we need to do. And it's a different approach. And it requires a lot more now to fill that course versus 6-7 months ago. And that's just what business is. You adjust for the market conditions and do more where's needed and less where it's not needed. But when people are like, well, you have to do more BD, but it's just a fact and you have to be comfortable with that.
Yeah. And see it, like we said in our last one, as a learning opportunity. But you're so right. Like the new recruiter course isn't selling. Like, oh my God, we've been running that course for 2 years, and like we were running it monthly. Like we couldn't get enough intakes going. We were having to split groups, and we're running it bi-monthly now. I never know that, by the way. Is that right? Bi-monthly? Or does that mean
bi-monthly means we run it twice a month? No, we're running it every 2 months. I don't think there's a word for that.
So bi-monthly though is the same as fortnightly?
Yeah.
So biannually, yeah, it's twice a year. Oh my God. My brain has never been able to get around that. But like, yeah, my point is, last thing before we wrap up, but like, yeah, so if your clients were hiring loads of juniors because they can get, on top of their admin or whatever, they're growing, well, are they now looking at part-time stuff? Like, got to look at how your market's pivoting to deal with a softening, and then adjust what you're selling and come up with solutions that might be more appealing based on the current market conditions, which is why we launched other courses.
Yeah. Do you think we could answer the question, like blanket? I know this will be very, very different per industry and desk, but what KPIs would you personally track in this market, and what numbers would you be looking for from those KPIs? Because I think we might be very aligned on this one.
Okay, so for me, you should be out meeting at least 3 clients a week, 3 to 5. Ideally, 3 of those would be new, 2 to 3 would be new, and then 2 would be existing client catch-ups, temp catch-ups, that sort of thing. That's what I would say would be a priority activity for me.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were going to go through them all. Yes, I would go 5 client meetings a week. Absolutely. I think actually, even in a market that is relatively good across both areas of candidates and clients, still 5 meetings a week should be your sort of norm. I would also say minimum 25 connected BD calls, whether that's existing or new. I wouldn't really care with my team. As long as you're speaking to 25 people a week, whether they're existing or new, you will generate enough interest for the client meetings to happen, and then everything falls off the back of that. And then you can look into CV sends and all of that. But realistically, I think those 2 numbers will generate enough for you to then have momentum to then do all of the jobs on, CV sends, interviews. But those 2 metrics, if you're focusing on BD, should be minimums in my
I agree. And I think the rest of them are amazing to track. But if you need to get back to some basics in this market, connect with 5 people a day and try and book a client meeting every day. Like, that literally is where you've just put your time and energy, and all of your prep is designed to get you there. Right, we've gone way over on this.
Also, how many consultants are going to hate us for giving actual numbers out?
No, when we go, they were like, KPIs and ratios and blah, 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 and then people are like, actually got to conceptualize. There are some weird noises coming from my house. With my child, and where are the dogs?
sleeping. They were in the office today. Look at them.
Life.
That's
What a,
one.
oh my God, as if.
There's the other.
Insane.
It's like they've
That
actually
was
been working. All they did was come into the office and sleep there, so they haven't done anything.
so tired. Such a tough day.
All right,
Alrighty.
team. See you next week. Hello, it's us again. You thought the podcast episode was over, but it's actually not. Just a quick one. We are actually going live. We're doing our first ever podcast live episode where we are going to go through 10 different subjects and our top tips on each of them. Things that are super relevant for recruiters in real time, things that we've seen in the market over the last year, and what we are likely going to see as recruiters in the next year, and our top tips on that. It's going to be super engaging, very quick fire. It's not going to be boring. You'll get a lot of lulls, and it is on November the 8th at 11 o'clock. So stay tuned. You will hear heaps about it on our socials and emails, but we are really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we cannot wait. Our top tips for 2024 coming at you live. You'll experience all the bloopers. Yeah, we're looking forward to basically having you in our living room for our poddy app. Yay!
You'll see a link to sign up in the comments section of the podcast, but if you don't, please reach out to us through any channel. See you guys soon.
Bye.